Remember the excitement and enthusiasm of your freshman year? Well, take that feeling and multiply it by 10 times, and you've got a good snapshot of the dozens of rookie Republicans coming to Congress in January. Except you wanted to cut classes. They want to cut spending. A little different. All right, now, determined to rattle the establishment, they're off to a flying start after Mr. Washington establishment himself, Senator Mitch McConnell, isn't even waiting for them to be sworn in before conceding to the ban on earmarks that we just discussed. But will these rebel freshmen avoid the mistakes of the 1994 Republican class, or will they get sucked into the Washington vortex and become everything they ran against? That is likely, by the way. Right, okay, now, Michael Shure is a political analyst, and Mark Tapscott is the editorial page editor of the Washington Examiner. Mark, let me start with you. What were the mistakes of the 1994 class?
Are you starting with me, Cenk?
No, Mark.
I'm sorry, Cenk, I didn't hear your question.
What were the mistakes of that 1994 Republican class?
Well, I think that's an interesting assumption that they made mistakes. There's a case to be made that the mistake they made was to not be tough enough with President Clinton on the government shutdown. But that's an argument for another day, and I don't think these guys are going to make that kind of mistake.
Mark, I'm just referring to what they say. You know, a lot of the incoming Tea Party people, Republicans, are saying we don't want to make the mistake of the 94 guys.
Right.
And honestly, I'm trying to figure out what they think that mistake is.
Well, I think you have to remember that these guys, at least my impression in talking with them, and I've talked with a number of the people that have been elected, my impression is that they very much understand the importance of, as Ronald Reagan said, if you can get 80% of what you're going for, most of the time that's a very good deal and you ought to go for it. The risk obviously being that you get nothing if you don't. And I think they understand the importance of compromise. The issue is it compromise that simply slows down the growth of government, or is it compromise that moves government in the other direction to less spending and less government power?
What's your sense, Michael? Do you get a sense that these Tea Party guys are significantly different than the Republican establishment, or are they generally similar, lower taxes, less government? We'll see what happens.
Well, you know, they've come in on a wave. They make up a third of the incoming GOP class, or a third of the incoming GOP majority in the House. So they are, you know, they're a significant number in that group. But, you know, what Mark just said about them understanding compromise, I mean, that's a little ridiculous because the Republican Party has not at all talked about compromise coming in. What the Republican Party is going to have to do is compromise with each other. Right now you have, I think it was Tim Scott, the incoming freshman from South Carolina, who came in and said, you know, we're going to embed into our platform of leadership exactly what we came out of the campaign with. So this is not about compromise. What the mistakes that these congressmen make always when they come in, when they're part of a freshman class that's big or small, is getting sucked in, as you said, into the vortex of the way Congress works. Sure, it's easy to come in with, you know, guns blazing for the first 100 days, but then they're going to have to work within the confines of Washington, and that always proves fatal.
Cenk, I think the biggest evidence that Michael is wrong on that point is Rand Paul making it very clear very quickly that for him, defense spending, for example, very much is on the table for spending reductions. And I think that in itself is a fundamental difference between this group and the 94 group.
Okay, Mark, that's a great point. Michael, what do you say about that? Because that seems like that's real change.
Yeah, that does seem real change, and that goes to my guns blazing. They come out here, but again, Rand Paul's going to have to work on defense spending. You know, today John McCain said that he wants to cut $100 million from defense spending, get rid of the F-35 program. But they're going to have to go into, first of all, the Senate right now is in a minority, and they're going to have to appease a lot of people who are pro-defense spending. A lot of people who draw the line in the sand about defense spending. Buck McKeon, who's coming in as the House Armed Services Committee chairman, he's the incoming House Armed Services Committee chairman, says he's actually going to draw a line when it comes to interfering with the wars. So yeah, Rand Paul ran on that. Rand Paul's saying that. He has some people that are whispering that. Even Alan West today, the Florida congressman to be, has said that he thinks that they should cut defense spending. He's a former Army guy. So it remains to be seen when it comes time to legislate and actually do it if that's going to happen. So Rand Paul's been talking that way, but it's a matter of the people that are listening and have to do it with him, whether or not they're going to act that way. And there's no proof that that's going to happen.
All right, then, Mark, you keep it real with me. Do you think there's a real chance that they're going to cut defense spending? Because if they do, I mean, I will flip on the Tea Party in a second, because that's if they stick to their guns on that, I will be amazed and I will be very pleasantly surprised.
Well, see, it's an unusual day when you and I agree on something, but I think that that in this particular case, Rasmussen did a survey in, I think, 2 weeks out from the election, and asked a representative national sample of people, would they prefer to vote for a candidate who promised to cut spending or a candidate who promised to bring home the bacon, as it were. 60% of them said, let's get people in who are going to cut spending. And I think that defines why the context for the defense spending debate, for example, is completely different now. I think people have a much greater sophistication and understanding that we don't have any choice anymore. The government has spent too much, it has too much debt, and it's got to cut back. And that has to include, in some ways, defense spending. And I think we will see significant defense spending cuts.
Hear, hear. All of a sudden, Mark and I agree. What a wonderful day in America. Bipartisanship reigns. All right, Mark, I actually want to stay with you for the last question.
Sure.
John Boehner, on the other hand, is talking about getting rid of the ethics committee, the independent ethics committee. There'd still be, you know, investigations, ethics investigations, we hope, but they'd get rid of this present committee. Is that a good idea? I don't see what's wrong with it.
Well, I have to confess I've not heard the specifics of that proposal from Boehner, but surely there must be more to the story simply than abolishing the ethics committee. I would think that would be
right.
something to reconsider.
Mark, it's the one they voted against when the independent committee that they voted against when Pelosi suggested it. But it seems like it's done its job. It's gone after Democrats, you know, so I don't see the problem with it. But we'll see how it develops.
Yeah, we still have a congressional ethics problem.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We always will.
And frankly, that was one of, you know, going back to what Mark said earlier, that was one of the problems that the incoming House freshman had in '94.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how they handle it this time around. Michael Shure and Mark Tapscott, thank you both. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thanks, Cenk.